Hello everyone, it's unkleDestiny here with you again, and it's time to see what the month of October has for everybody. We have also passed through the seasonal equinox, and we are now in the season of fall. And we're going to see what the month of October holds for everyone. I would just like to reflect briefly on our reading from last month, and I pointed out that the astrological item that came up for our dice was the number 10, and that one is associated with career, goals, fame, success, achievement, and public image. In the last week here in the U.S., we've seen a number of those issues come up with people's careers, with their goals, the price of fame that is not always about the pleasantry, having their success questioned, and having their achievements now really being reviewed as being positive or negative, but most of all also the public image and the public face that they now share. And a reminder that just because we often think about the positives with these things and what they benefit, they do have a dark side. And we're seeing a lot of that happen in this last week, in the month of September. So let us see what the month of October holds and what potentials, what number will come up for it. So let's get the ancestors in. All right, so we've thrown the bones, and as you can see, we've got a number of them there at the edge. And what's more, we also have a few that came off the reading surface, and one of which was our dice. Now, normally, as I say, anything that goes off the reading surface is not included in the reading. But I feel in this case, the dice is an important one to bring back in. So we're going to go ahead and bring it up because it did land on a number. And we're going to see what influence it has in the overall reading. Now, as you can see, that the bones themselves landed in a much tighter cluster. And the overall shape that I see here very much is that of someone walking a tightrope, because here's their legs, there's the tightrope, here's the balance bar, and here this is part of the scene or the structure that they're walking in front of. But what's more is here's everything that's lying below that person walking the tightrope that they could basically land on or are being watched by. And in fact, we have so many of the support bones, including our copper piece below, shows that there's quite a lot of things going on under the wire, under that tightrope walker. There's so much air, there's so much spirit at play that you got to be very conscious of. So let's go back up to our main bones. So the ones walking the tightrope itself, these are going to be work, and this one I sense is going to be social. This one here, the one that's going to be providing the balance bar so that everything can be maintained, that is going to be home. And we also have the quartz piece and another of the of our support bones. Particularly, we have the one that's at the top of our spinal bone. So what are we getting here? So we also have our shell here, which is also again turned inward. So it's going to be again about the inside, not about the external situations. So the fact that it's also just briefly touching here our work bone is that it's going to be a lot about internal changes in work and shifts that come with the new positions, let alone the new responsibilities and changes that work has developed. Now, why do I say that? I say that because during this next month, you're going to find that there's going to be some shifts in positions, some shifts in responsibility, and some also decisions that are going to come up. And those decisions in and of themselves, while it seems like it's part of the job, they're going to be ones that are putting you on the tightrope. They are not ones that are going to have a clear and easy answer. There may be no good solution. So there's the aspect that you can have good and good options. You have good and bad options, and you may only have bad and bad options, but you still get to make the choice. And some of what you're going to be dealing with here is along those lines of you get to make a choice. Doesn't necessarily mean that's a good and bad. Doesn't mean there's necessarily both bad, but you get to make a choice, and it's going to be something where you're going to be walking a thin line, the tightrope. It maybe matters between, especially if you're in a position of management, the requirements of whatever your business is, and your friendships with, say, employees. It may be the respect of your employees versus the higher ups in your business. These are all going to be things that you're going to be playing a tightrope with. It may be even the aspect of making a choice between profits and customer satisfaction, which are very tied together. But these things are going to be part of the tightrope that you're going to be walking. Now, over here under the social, which, as I said, is also walking that tightrope, the fact that they come together and almost form the walking legs means that they're also going hand in hand. And so that goes into that component of the concern about profits versus public, your customer satisfaction, your public image. There's going to be a lot of things going on in this next month that there's going to be a tightrope walked. And decisions and images are going to be made. They're going to be walking on a very thin line, but it's also whether or not people respect that line. So much of the things that have played on this last week have all talked about we need to shame somebody into doing something. Whether it is making a choice that affects all of us or keeping someone silent. All of these things have been built around the use of shame. And the thing is, shame works when there is actually reasons for people to be ashamed. It doesn't work when the individual that is trying to be shamed doesn't care. It means, and at that point, it means changing the tact that you use. So if someone is not being shamed and clearly not, and they're not having that effect, and they're still making decisions that are still going counter to what so many other people are, that means there's a different power that's got to be played. Then this is also, I'm sensing, is where the spinal bone comes in, is that this is about the aspect of the knowledge and the fact that it's right now here at the cap of the social bone, but it's also here next to the quartz piece. And again, that's about memory. That's about knowledge. And the fact that those two together is that those components need to work together more effectively. This is not so much about emotion as it's more of a blend of emotion and logic. And that logic is also recognizes that how power can be a way of holding on to things, and let alone perpetuating things, in the face of emotions of others. It's the aspect of playing to the aspect of things you need to be smarter as opposed to passionate. And that's also what we're seeing here with the shell piece. It's about the internal. And the internal is going to be about passion and logic. And how are they actually being tempered? And how do you recognize when they are not being tempered? And when they are not being tempered, that means you have to change the tact. Which means also looking at and addressing where the value is. As I said, those that are not being affected by shame have their values set in a different place. And if you want to be able to have that impact on them, you have to address what those values are. Now, when we talk about the balancing bone, this one is, as I said, about home. This is about the idea of what your home is. Your home is a place where you come home from work, but you also express and are either a sanctuary away from the society, or it's where you make your home in your society. Where you make your home in your society is an important factor. And again, this is memory. This is the aspect of remembering that what we do and where we live is made up of everything that has happened in this past. It has been made by decisions that are both logical but also made out of passion, made out of ignorance, made out of fear. So if we're not balancing our home, which comes with that standpoint of having memories of things, our homes will fall. Because here's the other thing, that even though you notice that I've described this as the balancing bar, notice how far it's much more weighted over to one side as opposed to being perfectly in the middle. So it's about remembering what decisions have been made in the past and how they've had an effect, and how they're building and providing our home, both for and against. So we'll drop down here to all the support bones. In fact, that in many ways it is spirit, it is the support systems that is keeping that tightrope up. But more importantly, we have this copper piece, which is our conduit to spirit, and even it is slightly off the reading surface. So there's an aspect of even spirit is having issues. Spirit may be slightly stepping off the field. It's like, okay, you made this decision, now you must live with it. And notice too, we have the broken rib bone here stabbing at spirit. So the standpoint of what type of spirit is going on here, and that's I think something else that applies to the question of power and shame, because 9 times out of 10 when we talk about shame, it is in some context to spirit of an ideal, spirit of a purpose, spirit including to when we talk at religion and space and faith. There are definitely spirits that are being attacked, and how they're being attacked is going to be dependent again on the value. So remember, the value is what is going to be determining whether somebody can be shamed or not, whether or not something can even be reached. So it's looking at what that spirit is, looking at what that value is important. So it's going to call for some introspection. And make no mistake, introspection is a very powerful thing that we all should do, but we have to remember that introspection only really works when we are questioning and going to the difficult places. Not the easy places, but the difficult ones. So spirit is here as at the borderline saying, like, okay, you're either going to do the introspection and look at the difficult stuff, or you're going to do the introspection and look at only the easy. If you're going to look at only the easy, then hey, we're out. We're not going to be doing anything. And guess what? That means you can be easily manipulated. So we're going to wrap up now with the last one, our dice. And as it is, it rolled a number 12. And this means endings, healing, closure, spirituality. Why did I feel this one was important for us to bring in? Is that we're talking about endings. The fact that we're going into fall is the point where things begin to move into the death cycle. These are also the times when healing is also more difficult because the body is going into more of a hibernative state, so it doesn't want to spend a lot of resources on healing. Equally so, it's good to have your wounds healed before winter comes. We're looking at closure. We're coming heading towards the end of this calendar year and the decisions of what makes it up. And finally, we're looking at spirituality. The issue of surviving not just the fall, but the winter, or often known as the long dark, is something that requires a lot of our spirit. So how are we pulling together and marshaling that spirit in such a way that it is about our long-term survival, not our immediate survival? So I would also say that this month of October is going to have these 4 elements in it. Now, whether they have a positive or a negative spin, that is yet to be seen. But look at the events of the month and ask which of these things are about endings, which of these things are about healing, which of these things are about closure, which of these things are about spirituality. So, This is our reading for the month of October. On behalf of all the ancestors, the Rishas, Loas, and gods, and the spirits, and the creator of all the universe, I wish everyone well. I remind you that it is time to focus on the inner world and those inner emotions. And may you have a happy hallowed eve, and be in touch with your ancestors and spirits. Ashe.